Hi, everybody. This is Osgood Perkins. I directed the movie you're about to watch, Gretel and Hansel. I wanted to use the old MGM lion, the one from the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, but they wouldn't let me.
Come, children, and listen, for the story I tell holds a lesson that might one day keep you safe.
That's the voice of Alice Krieg, who plays the witch, obviously. It's funny when you're casting movies, so much of it is done, even this time, which was pre-pandemic, of course. Everything's done remotely, sort of by tape. You ask actors to make tapes, and sort of just the way things go. And it's funny because we asked, sort of casting this part, we were asking kind of slightly older, venerable actresses to do this, and she made the weirdest tape. It was so engaging and strange. She had this. That's my wife under there, by the way. She wasn't my wife at the time, but she's under the Enchantress makeup. She's under the hands here in this hat. Anyway, Alice Krieg made this insane tape where she sort of wore this head wrap and had this. There was sort of like a sleeping dog or something in the frame. I couldn't tell what it was. It was like this lump that was breathing and kind of growling. It was this really wonderful, almost sort of Bergman-esque tape, and it was a no-brainer. Of course, she's brilliant.
What she saw, for it is only the bitter end that comes for everyone anyway, and she herself made sure of that, for it was soon clear that she was powerful in other ways.
The costume here on the beautiful child, I think the character was called, came to be such a strange thing. I was walking near my house in Los Angeles in the Hollywood Hills and saw a kind of a fire hydrant, sort of a strangely placed fire hydrant that was pink with sort of a dirty yellow base, and I took a picture of it and I said to the costume designer, I was like, I think it's this. And we had these strange hats, but the combination of the pink with the dirty yellow was based on a fire hydrant in Hollywood.
Her own way of making friends.
This was reshot. We reshot the beginning of this movie. We shot this in Vancouver. The movie itself was shot in Ireland, County Wicklow, which is called the Garden of Ireland. It's extremely beautiful, and it's disorienting because you can point the camera in all these different directions and get all these different things, even if you're standing in one place. It's sort of winter in this direction and kind of hazy in this direction, sunny in this direction, rainy in this other direction. And, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches when it comes to making a movie. We stayed in this place in County Wicklow, this hotel, I can't remember what it was called, this sprawling, very fancy place, which it turned out was where they had also shot Barry Lyndon. So I felt pretty good about that. I had been on the Barry Lyndon set when I was 1 year old with my parents visiting my aunt Marisa Berenson, who was the lead in Barry Lyndon
Just feels like I've always known it.
with the now late Ryan O'Neal, who's so great in that one. We shot the movie here in a 1:55 to 1 aspect ratio, which is a weird shape. It's more square than most movies are, and was surprised that MGM let us do it, or Ryan let us do it, but I don't know if they really fully understood what we were doing. We said to them that it's the IMAX aspect ratio, and that was sort of good enough for them.
Boy, he has one. Mother imagines he needs
Sammy Leakey here playing Hansel. brilliant kid. Early on, I made the decision that everybody would sort of have their own accents. Sammy's English, obviously, and I didn't. It kind of. I referenced Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, in which everybody sort of speaks with American kind of Valley Girl accent. And that was my impression of it anyway. Maybe I was wrong, but Kirsten Dunst certainly didn't speak with an English accent or French in Marie Antoinette. These windows we stole from a kind of a. We're driving through on a scout. We saw these windows at a bar. And the production designer Jeremy Reed and I thought kind of looked like sort of where a sex worker might work in some place like Amsterdam or something.
Some say the lands are cursed.
The idea here with this scene, of course, is that she's trying to get a housekeeper's job to feed her family, but this guy is basically a pimp.
You will do well to limit the number of words that come out of your mouth.
Yes, sir.
Or do something nice for a poor old man, won't you? Try saying "my lord" instead.
Yes, my lord.
That's a good girl. I think you'll find our guests will prefer it.
Our guests, yeah, he's talking about the men who'd come through this place like it's a brothel. He asks her if she's kept her maidenhood. He was his look and sort of vibe was lifted from Barry Lyndon. I wanted to cast the lovely guy who was Stanley Kubrick's longtime assistant, who traveled around with his movies for a long time before he died. Leon, someone, I should know his name, but I wanted to cast him, and we couldn't reach him, couldn't get him. But it was meant to have the Barry Lyndon sort of vibe. It was my wife's idea to have Gretel have a single mom. The original script, she sort of had the, I don't want to say typical, but kind of the standard weird broken family with the kind of boisterous alcoholic dad and the meek mom. And we just were looking for ways to make this feel updated within, or sort of set on the backdrop of this timeless fairy tale, which is what drew me to the material in the first place. It was sort of, well, what if we just made a Hansel and Gretel story that was just the story, that didn't add a bunch of unnecessary business to it? No orcs or people with crossbows or elaborate fights with dragons and things. It's really sort of simple. They have no food on their plates, and she gets cast out of her house, in this case by her single mom, who's a little crazy. And
dig a hole for mommy too?
They find themselves, on the path. Sophia Lillis is an amazing actor, and when we did this movie, I think she was 16 or so, and very sort of 16, very much a kid. And she has this remarkable thing that actors sometimes have, that when they're sort of one person when they're on behind the lens, and then as soon as they step in front of the lens, the camera loves them so much, and the camera sees their eyes and sees into their eyes so beautifully, they become really transformed. I mean, she's really not at all like Gretel is, and it got to the point towards the end of the process with her where I'd have conversations with Sophia, and then she would kind of get in front of the lens, and I'd have a conversation with Gretel, and Gretel somehow kind of knew things that Sophia didn't know, or sort of had a kind of a world-weary, sophistication about her that Sophia didn't have. It was bizarre in the best possible way. I mean, that's what a real movie star. I felt like I had a real movie star with Sophia Lillis in this picture.
I don't have to see things to know that they're there.
This is a real place on a hilltop overlooking Dublin. That there's some lore around it. It was a place where people used to. It was like a club, like a men's club in the old. I mean, ancient. You can see how ancient it was. It was sort of a men's club, and there was rumor around it that that's where the devil played cards. Something about a guy went there one night on horseback to go play, poker or blackjack or whatever the equivalent was, and dropped a card on the table, bent down to pick the card up, looked under the table and saw hooves.
Gretel, will we be alright? If I've got a voice in the matter.
The movie, the script is littered with these kind of snappy, sort of poetic one-liners and little turns of phrases and little sort of mini poems, and I had a good time coming up with those, putting those into everybody's mouths. These sort of little pithy summations of things and little turns of phrases, of little truths about life and sort of how things are. It felt like fairy tale talk to me.
Not really.
Ducking the arrows. So it was so cold. We shot that scene. It was just terrible. I love the grease on his face here. This is the first thing we ever shot. This was the first scene we shot.
I have an axe.
Oh. I must say it hides very well in your shadow, young man.
It hides very well in your shadow. I had an axe. Well, it hides very well in your shadow. It was just a nicer way of saying I don't see it. You don't have it with you. But I tried to make everything sound sort of clever.
They'll hand you a new axe and show you how to make it work. Like
Great face. Look at that face.
you, girl, will learn the ways of the herbs and the earth, lest the men of the world find a more obvious use for you.
The title of the movie, putting her name first, which is one of the things I thought was so cool about it when the kind of first draft of the script came to me. That very simple reversal of just putting her ahead of him in the title. It sort of demanded that there be I don't want to say feminist. I mean, it's not my job to think that I'm making feminist movies or not making feminist movies, but to feel that Gretel was empowered in a different way, in sort of more powerful than Hansel. I think the original telling, in the Grimm version, I think they're sort of equal. Neither one is more capable or stronger or smarter than the other. But in this case, we wanted to make her sort of better than him. It's beautiful. Milk.
To trust someone who appears exactly when you need them? Or does it feel too much like they've been lying in wait, coiled like a serpent?
Keep west for 2 full days and nights.
It's a beautiful movie. I'll say that for it. Parts of it sort of work better than other parts of it, in terms of story and the effect that it ultimately has. But it certainly is pretty. Gallo Oliveris was the DP. Beautiful guy. when he got the script, when Gallo first got the script and I spoke to him on the phone, it was funny. He speaks Spanish. His English is sort of what it is. And by the way, he's one of my best friends in the world. I couldn't love anybody more than I love Gallo. When we first spoke on the phone, he said I didn't like the script. He said I read the script, I didn't like it. And he said I read it again, and then I liked it, and then I read it the third time, and it was my favorite script. He said it was like an album that you listen to it the first time, you're like, well, this is no good. But by the fifth time you've listened to it, it's your favorite record.
Oh. Do you remember Father very much?
No, not very much.
Tell me the fairy tale again. The one about the beautiful child with the little pink...
Not right now. It's too scary, start seeing things that aren't there.
These shadow people we created in pre-production, just something to add a layer of texture to the world.
And it helps me go to bed.
This hat. The hat. So the hat was conceived, the costume designer and I wanted these hats, these great hats that they had. He has this little sort of private school boys hat, or kind of like almost like a Japanese baseball hat, kind of a really kind of boyish cap. And they both wear these kind of Soviet, kind of weirdly brutalist sort of Soviet school uniforms that we loved. And this hat she had, I loved this hat, and the studio didn't love the hat. So we shot the hat for a day or two, and then they said, "What's the hat?" And I said, "Well, the hat's the hat." They said, don't shoot the hat anymore. And that's kind of, all in all, the collaborative process of making a movie. There's so many voices, and in all fairness, Orion was extremely generous with me and let me do really whatever I wanted. I mean, starting with shooting it in a 1:55 to 1 aspect ratio, which is sort of bananas thing to do. And it's funny, the things that in the process of making a movie people don't get or become sort of afraid of, and the Gretel's hat was like a bridge too far. So it was gone. But his hat, he wears his hat well. Good movie hat is kind of a beautiful thing. Look at that thing.
I'm hungrier than you are.
Because you're a pig.
You're a bigger pig.
You're right, I am.
And I love this here. She loves him. That look, that little look of, he's kind of a baby and he's kind of dead weight for her. And up the hat. I think this was the last day we had the hat. Mushrooms. These, they're kids, and you get into the feeling like this kid here is going to eat magic mushrooms, and he's 9 or something like that. And his parents are sort of cool people and open-minded, of course, and he came to work on this day when we were doing the trip, and I said, "Sammy, how you feeling about doing these mushrooms?" He said, all I know is that once I eat these mushrooms, my mom said, the trees are amazing. I was like, yeah, just about covers it. And Sophia, 16, had not had any mushrooms in her system at all, of course. And she was very curious about what the experience was. I kind of had to break it to her. Well, I've had some firsthand experience. She's eating a marzipan mushroom here, so is he. I said it's sort of this and this, and it's kind of this. And you sort of feel this connection to the thing, but she had no real idea. And then did this amazing stuff. I mean, these takes were sort of so brilliant. The two of them. Oh, he's wearing her hat, but she understood that it was this flicker that magic mushrooms offer this sort of beauty and horror. And I thought this look of sort of gratitude on her eyes I thought was so beautiful. And this, I mean, if that's not mushrooms, I don't know what it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you shoot a scene like this, I'm nearby. I love that little trick that we did. I'm obviously right, sort of on the other side of the camera, telling them what's what. But they did so well with it. It was really I mean, just a beautiful portrayal of something so simple, but that she had no firsthand knowledge of and just made it up. One of my favorite dissolves right there. It's really trippy in a good way. So this was the gate. I felt like to sort of mark out the crossing of a threshold in the picture, wanting to feel like, why there's a gate here? Why it's not connected to anything? There's no fence. There's no boundary. But this is the boundary. It's like, are you going to cross this or not? I love him saying, "Is that there?"
If it isn't, neither are we.
Do you smell that?
Early on in the development of the look of this movie, I met with Jeremy Reed, who had built the house that is haunted in I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which is the movie I did before this. We built that whole house in a warehouse in Ottawa, sort of a trucking warehouse. We built that beautiful New England house. And in getting into this movie, it was sort of, this was like, it's not going to be made of candy, for God's sake. Like, it has to be something better than that. It has to be something really, the audience is going to, or any audience is going to sort of look at this movie and say, well, so what? Like, what's new about this? And so we thought the house being sort of really strikingly minimalist and fabulous. We built this, obviously. It's a facade. There's nothing inside. This is on a soundstage, of course. All this is soundstage. The food was made by these kind of, I think there were three of them, two or three sort of older Irish ladies who made all this food, and it was all real. They kept it. They kept it sort of around for days and days. And the smell of it was really weird. It smelled like bad icebox, and then like a bad refrigerator. And then at a certain point it started to smell bad, and so they put Chanel No. 5 over all of it, which I thought was such an odd thing to do. It smelled so bad in this set of kind of cold food, really cold food with Chanel No. 5 spritzed all over it. And this, shooting through the chairs to show the cage that he'll later be in. These beautiful windows. So this, of course, is all in a forest, and a real forest, the real house, the facade of a house, and she looks in. Of course, everything she sees is on a soundstage.
Brother!
This was great. My idea to sort of Why can't they just get in there? Why can't she just break the glass? Why is this place... How to show this is impenetrable? Well, throw a rock at the glass and it bounces off. We put the slide in the front yard there to kind of be like appealing to children. These little doors, that was the other thing we did. These little, all the doors are child size. Right? She's like, this is a place for you guys. This is a place for kids. Look, the doors are your height.
That, dear. I'd hate for you to start something you can't stop.
He's just eating pork, and she knows better.
I think I'm married. See you a ball and chain at my heel. But tell me how you came to be in my woods. And so charmingly unchaperoned.
Charmingly unchaperoned.
Usually the first thing a mother comes upon.
My sister won't go to the convent.
Be quiet.
I very much doubt that a convent is the place for a girl with action in her bones. Even if there's hardly any meat on those action bones.
I don't know where this stuff came out of me, the things that everybody said in this movie, all these sort of... She says, we thought you had guests. She says, well, I'd rather have roaches.
Just checking. To be sure you're not crawling with louses before you put your heads on any pillows of mine.
Ouch!
You're clean enough. Now, eat and rest. Beds have already been made up for you.
Thank you. But really, we'll stop briefly, but we must be on our way.
Milk. Good for bones.
Yeah, good for bones, right? She's like, oh, these latticed cookies, delicious looking. She's like, maybe just a little bit of one. Her reaction's beautiful here. Hairless cats, yeah. We had these two hairless cats. They were sort of geniuses. They were sort of brilliant. They did all the things we wanted them to do. And wanting to reference sort of standard witch things, cats, brooms, pointy hats, but to do them in a way that was sort of stylized and stylish. She can have cats, but maybe they're hairless cats. Doing jump scares like this is not, it doesn't come naturally to me. It's not the kind of movie that I would sort of choose to make in isolation, but there's a certain expectation when you're making movies that people think are going to be horror movies. I don't know if this movie is a horror movie. It's a fairy tale, and fairy tales are sort of where horror movies come from. So I guess it makes sense that it would be a horror picture, but it's a sort of a kid's movie. Jump scares are not it's not high on my list of ways to entertain people, but it's kind of demanded. It's kind of everybody wants it, so you find yourself doing your best. All the windows on these sets we had to make so you couldn't see through them, because we were on the smallest soundstage that they had on the lot. And we had these really sumptuous sets, and they were all built within sort of 5 feet of each other. So you had to kind of slip between sets all the time and walk through these narrow alleyways between wall slats. And so we couldn't show any depth outside the windows. So we couldn't use backdrops. We couldn't use forest backdrops. We couldn't put trees out there. They would all just be too close to the windows. So we decided early on that we would go for these kind of the kind of glass that they have in chintzy Italian restaurants, those red kind of candle holder things, those candle sort of jars that they have on tables in cheap Italian restaurants. They have that kind of thick beveled glass. We used that and kind of leaned into our limitation, which was that we couldn't really shoot the forest out there. We couldn't pretend there was a forest out there. We didn't have enough space. So we made it so that you couldn't see out. And so we leaned into the fact that it was more of a container, the house was, and there was no chance of kind of seeing out or getting out unless she wanted you to be out.
The sliding door to your right.
All the doors slid like this. Sort of felt like Star Wars to me. Darth Vader always walking through these sliding doors. In this shot here on the left, you can probably see it in 5K or whatever you're watching it on. The ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz there on the bottom left.
High like this, then lay it down easy. Very good. Once you've gotten the hang of it...
There's the kind of brutalist modern shed that goes with the brutalist modern house.
My, aren't you handsome?
She's got a very alien quality with this headdress. It's almost H.R. Geiger in its look. Did a lot of weird things here that didn't make it into the movie. I don't think this was no, I don't think it did. That was a two-way magnifying glass. It was a magnifying glass on one side. She looks at it, so she magnifies something. Then she turns it over, and it's a mirror. I don't know why we took that out. It worked pretty well. I think it was maybe confusing, or someone saw it and sort of didn't understand it. That's the kiss of death for doing a little bit in a movie is if you show it to someone or an audience and they don't, what is that? It's gone. Doesn't matter if the filmmakers think it's cool. It's not about whether the filmmakers think it's cool. It's what the audience thinks it's cool. And if the audience says, "What the hell was that?" It's not worth it.
Here.
What?
You drink it.
Oh, I don't.
Tomorrow you will be a new girl. If not tomorrow, then soon enough. In any case, you will have taken a first step. The foul smell is only an ugly gatekeeper in front of the Palace of Wonders. Stop with him at the gate, or see what goes on inside.
Sort of a reference to psychedelics and, again, eating mushrooms or drinking ayahuasca or anything like that. It sort of sucks when you do it, and then it opens you up to this other thing. But that's what she's sort of saying there. It's like, it tastes bad, but you can stop at the taste, or you can see what happens to you after. And I love this. He's like, I'm going to cut this tree down. Kind of has no sense of what's possible. His innocence and his kind of sweet childishness around things like he could ever chop this tree down with this hatchet.
You're coming with me. idiot trees.
We called him on the set. We called him Dr. Leaky because he was so kind of. It was his first movie, I think, and he was so good all the time that the AD and I used to say, "When here comes the doctor's in."
Gretel, it's naked.
Here we go.
She's growing up, right? She's not. He thinks it's funny that it's a naked person, and she doesn't care.
I was out all day. I didn't know what rain clouds look like, and there was none.
In any case, I brought your accent for you just to be safe.
Putting him here in front of the fire is deliberate. It's sort of like looking through the chairs to say that he'll be in a cage. Putting him in front of the fireplace was to say that he'll soon be in a fire.
Is she a snake? A frog? A pig?
So this stuff, we Jeremy Reed, the production designer, and I, like I said, we were looking for ways to really dig in and have a good time with the spaces that were in the picture, and looking at the original fairy tale and feeling like, well, the witch's house has to be something special. There's an expectation that would be special, so we made it special. And then there was the quality of sort of, well, what's the cage like? What's the bad place in the witch's house where the kids get cooked? And it was my idea to do this. It's almost like a big refrigerator. And I kind of felt like I was sort of thinking about things like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and these people who have these secret rooms under their houses where they, torture and kill people, and feeling like, well, what if the witch had that underneath her house and it was vast and it was sort of architecturally impossible in a way. And that the bottom kind of 3 or 4 feet of the wall there was stained with, blood. Such beautiful sets.
Were the dreams I was having only the result of too much rich food before bed?
And this was just, a continuation of that idea of her having this underground kind of kill room that we later will see the curtain will be pulled back and we'll see that the oven is there. But I like this too, this sort of through the looking glass, feeling like fairy tales have this sort of wonderful upside down inverse rationale, the kind of inverse point of view of things. It's like, the place is, the window is in the ground. It's not it's not an up and down window. It's not a window that's on a surface. It's the window is the ground. The perspective is fairy tale kind of tweaked, and it's enough. That's enough to get her to be like, we should probably go.
To leave before outstaying our welcome.
What? Leave?
Yes. And continue on to the foresters like we said we would.
We found work to be done here. You probably noticed the food.
And you've probably noticed the food.
Tell me what hides behind that pleasantness. There are things here. Bad things.
What bad things?
The abundance, for one.
What's that mean?
It means too much. There's too much, and it isn't right. Where are the animals? From where does she draw milk? From where does she conjure up her endless parade of cakes? There are souls trapped in this house. Or under it.
But why do you always see a problem? Something behind or under. Something hidden.
Because the big bad world is what it is.
We're safe now from the world. Isn't that what you want?
Perhaps tomorrow you can send me for supplies. Mother says I have an eye for good produce.
That won't be necessary.
Again, the smell coming off of this stuff was outrageous.
It's unsalted. It must be going bad.
And yet it isn't.
Yes!
Ireland. I mean, it's all just a set, like that we were able to find this tree that sort of fell into this triangle shape that looked like the witch's house was just one of those things. And and trying to bring contemporary imagery into the world, like how people throw shoes, sneakers up over power lines in cities. Certainly do it in Los Angeles a lot. You look up when you're driving and you'll see, someone's knotted a pair of sneakers and hurled them up over the power lines, and that was sort of that look. Rank is bloody.
You'll find another in the cupboard in the hall, towards the back.
Gets her to the cupboard, gets her to the door. The knob with the sort of single black bead, the black stone, was something that we did throughout this movie. You see it in the beginning, the witch's ring. She wears the black sort of onyx. This pentagram, hand done by someone in our art department. No rulers. She did it with a little drill. and no rulers or compass or anything. She just did it by hand.
The thought in your head is go look in the shed.
And here was this look at a witch that was meant to be sort of as classical as could be. I mean, this is the Wicked Witch of the East. And the pointy hat is inspired by George Harrison.
What eats with its teeth?
Sort of towards the end of the world of towards the end of the Beatles, as he was transitioning into his own solo career, and there's that album cover for All Things Must Pass. He's sitting out in that garden of gnomes in front of his castle, I guess, and he's wearing kind of a fabulous pointed hat. So we looked at those. The costume designer and I looked at those George Harrison hats. Kind of made an exaggerated version of that for her.
This is your power, to see what is hidden and to take it. Small mind believes only what it can see. Carves out a little square. Wait.
I was interested in working with the script and working with the sort of the development of how the movie unfolded and the process of things and the narrative and the unfolding of events. The idea of unhiding things, leaning into the idea that fairy tales sort of are instruction manuals for kids to sort of get in touch with their unconscious minds. You know, there's a great book called The Uses of Enchantment, which is applies Freudian psychology, for what that's worth, to iconic fairy tales. It's pretty great. Bruno Bettelheim is the author. Uses of Enchantment. It's a book that some college class threw my way, and I thought it was sort of kind of goofy at times, but also you couldn't really deny what it was saying, and you know, wanting to acknowledge the fact that these old fairy tales, as old as they are, resonate deeply still with all of us. We all know these things. They're all part of our collective unconscious or collective subconscious, however you want to call it. And just the idea that everything is hidden, that there's so much awareness, so much of the machinery of our souls and our brains and our hearts and our spirits are kind of laid bare in fairy tales. And so one of the themes around the witches kind of teaching Gretel things was about looking beyond the surface of things and looking to what's hidden and kind of going the extra step. The abstract expressionist American painter Robert Motherwell talks about the process of painting being a process of unhiding something. I was thinking about that as we were doing this picture.
Go ahead. It awaits its master.
We got the staff to stand up like that. You probably are all, if you're watching this DVD extra here, if you're listening to me talk, if you're still listening to me talk, it's probably because you're interested in how movies get made. And if you're interested in how movies get made, you probably already know things as well as I do, or better, or you figure them out. To get the staff to stand up like that, all we had to do was drop it and then roll it backwards.
The bones of the dead.
The stuff we shot in Vancouver, tested the movie, as movies get tested for audiences. You show them, you show something in process. We showed this movie. In my opinion, we showed it way too early. A lot of the effects weren't done, but it's useful. We showed it to an audience. The audience was like, "Yeah, no, this is no good." And it was my first experience with being tested by an audience and kind of getting a score. Got a very low score, and I guess it's the kind of thing where people can really get bummed out by that and discouraged. I don't remember feeling bummed out or discouraged. I remember thinking, well, thank God we know. Thank God they told us, that they were honest and told us that the thing doesn't work. And needs stuff. So we wrote some additional bits. This was one of them. The tree gets touched with the stuff that the witch had in her chalice that she put onto the staff, and then Gretel has it on her hands, and then Gretel touches the tree, and the tree kind of comes to life and bows to her. But this was not in the script. Oh yeah, the pot pie. Yeah, I mean, it just becomes increasingly absurd that this pot of kind of butter in the right side of frame there, it was like a dome of butter.
And he'll be here again tomorrow, as sure as the sun, and with even less explanation.
Stuff like that was just fun to write, and then even more fun to hear. She's saying, you should eat that, and he's like, it's going to be here tomorrow, as sure as the sun, and with just as little explanation. Like, I can't figure out how all this food is here now. I'm not even going to try. I'm totally grossed out by it.
Could make my life.
She's not our mother, you know.
It's true. She isn't. She has much to give. You wouldn't understand. There are many gifts here.
You always say there aren't any gifts in this world, that nothing is given without something taken away. So tell me this. What is she taking? I'm scared now, and I want to go home. I want to see Mother.
We both know there's nothing there.
But gifts. Are you forgetting? Forgetting to be afraid of gifts?
I'm not.
What about this story? Once upon a time a girl was born.
It's not like that.
And all in the village agreed that she was the most beautiful child.
You do well to shut your mouth.
It came to be that she was touched with the gift of...
Fall quiet, boy, for I shall write my own story.
Gretel.
You want to leave? Let me show you how.
My daughter B, dressed up as the little shadow person. I guess she was about 8 when we made this movie.
The desire to be rid of him was very real, but to send him off alone into the night, that could never be true.
Hansel.
don't know if every time one uses that shot, if it has to be a quotation of Psycho, but I mean, I suppose for me it is, and I'm sure for a lot of cineasts, that's that, right? The peephole.
He's out sulking, blaming the strength of the trees for his own weakness.
He's a little boy.
Even the littlest pebble makes it difficult to travel once it gets its way into your boot. You've taken him on as a burden. But last night you shrugged it off.
That was another one of the kind of themes and ideas or truths or possible truths that I wanted to have in the picture, which was this quality of you can love something or someone and still be better off without them. You know, that you can be burdened. There's such a thing as being burdened by love, or loving a burden, as the case may be. It's a pretty simple thing to say, elementally true, I guess. It's something we wanted to include here, the quality of the witch sort of saying, you're better off without your brother. He's sort of bringing you down. And if you're going to become who you are, you're going to have to do that without him.
Fix you a sleeper. She always does the trick. You sleep like a baby. Like a baby who's just got into her mother's sleepers.
Yes. Thank you.
Careful with a sleeping draught. A leaf or a twig this way or that. You get a very different mixture. A soup of nightmares.
Oh, good night then.
Probably one of my favorite bits in the movie is this passage, the little door with the centered black knob and this beautiful wallpaper. I think we made this robin's egg blue wallpaper with little circus things on it. Yeah, I think we made this. And then just this kind of almost monolithic look. I mean, it's got a bit of 2001 Space Odyssey. And just the simple collective unconscious thing, I mentioned before, of going down, right? Going down into your unconscious, going down into the stuff that's hidden, and kind of finding the truth.
Come on now. This is no place for you. You come now and look at me.
This gag coming up here was something that I came up with to, how do you get someone into a room that doesn't have any entrances or doesn't have any ways in besides the way you've just come, and feeling like reflections were or are the kind of realm of witchcraft. Did something in Joel Cohen in his Macbeth. Did something with wonderful with reflections, where the three witches, the weird sisters, only one of them is standing at a puddle, and the sort of the mist parts, and you see in the reflection two others. It feels very occulty. Loved Jessica DeGau's tattoos here that we did. Again, just an attempt to sort of modernize our witch feeling. The idea that there's an older witch and then there's a younger witch, that the older witch is almost the disguise of the younger witch, is just, straight from Disney's Snow White. Sort of the beautiful young witch queen can't really do what she wants to do looking like that. She has to go into the old lady with the apple. This is an elaborate effects shot that I had nothing to do with. I like how the little organ at the front of the table here slowly turns into a nice apple, stands up on its own. We shot this movie on very wide lenses, of course. I'd say 90% of the movie is shot on an 18mm lens. It just sort of became our go-to look, varicose veins and the cheese over there. But the 18, that was Gallo and I every day. We would sort of think about the lenses and stand there and look at each other for a bit, kind of pretend that we were going to use other lenses, and then Gallo would always say, the 18. The 18. He'd look at his assistant cameraman, Erwin, just say the 18.
Any sign about it or runaway?
No, none.
Well, I'll keep a nose in anyhow.
It's just a badass hat.
It's not regular that nature calls out to me, but when she does, I try to answer.
These windows above the door here, the shape of that above this door, we took from Dario Argento's Suspiria. I mean, just took them. We didn't adjust them. We didn't make them our own. We just took the shape of sort of this glass portal thing on one of the doors I think at the ballet, at the dance school. Pretty sure. In Suspiria, we just took them and just put them there. This just seemed like such a depraved thing for a witch to do, to kind of dig a hole and throw up into it, as part of a spell or part of a process or part of a way to garner power. Kind of, the witch intuits sort of that there's, the showdown is coming, or the kind of the moment is coming, and she goes and she digs a hole and barfs into it. I thought that was just gross and sad, and wanting to explore this idea that the witch was addicted to this stuff, eating kids, and that it wasn't really something that she necessarily even liked doing anymore.
I've been thinking, maybe it's for the best.
Can't help herself. It's the drug addict who's long since gotten past the feeling good part of it, and now is just in the sustaining the norm part of it, and sort of just chasing the dragon. Not even chasing the dragon. Chasing the dragon is you're still trying to get high. In this case, it's just sort of looking for that baseline. Eating kids so you don't get sick is sort of what it came down to ultimately. And so here it just became about I just tried to put in little character set piece windows to show the power of this person. The steaming cup of tea here that she drinks in one sip. It just sort of seemed like she's starting to acknowledge that Gretel is a witch and is going to be the next kind of great witch, and that she's sort of training her, but at the same time doesn't want, you can want the young witch to kind of seize her power, but you can also think that she's a threat to you, and so she's sort of the witch is threatened by Gretel, and so there's a little bit of bravado. There's some sort of like, you might be the next young witch, but I'm still the queen of the castle. And this was a bit that I came up with. I just turned out to be one of the posters and worked really well. Just, again, her sort of putting in Gretel's face the realities. She actually did this. We gave her a little bag that had this hair in it. She put the bag in her mouth and went in there and grabbed the thing and pulled it out of the bag. She's really doing this. There's no cheat. And of course it comes out clean because it's magic. You can see the look in her face. She's not proud of it. Not proud of it anymore. It doesn't feel good.
Moving him out of your way.
He's all I have in this world.
Say that.
We almost never used two cameras on this movie. We had a B camera team on set every day, but we just didn't shoot that way. Except this scene, which is this sort of meaty dialogue. It's almost like this one act between these two people. We did do two cameras rolling at the same time. So in the middle of the tape, we've got one camera looking at Sophia, one camera looking at Alice. So this is both sides are sort of live, as it were. The reactions are happening live.
All that is left is to make him.
Obviously, when you're making a movie, most of the time you're shooting one person's side, and the other person's just sitting off camera, kind of reading the lines. But in this case, we had both actors performing at the same time, just choosing the moments.
I envy you standing at the threshold of your own experience, with everything ahead of you. To be young again.
And then there's just this bit of performance. Alice here, like, she knows that there's this, she's trying to poison her with a sleeping draft here. It's like, nice try.
A nice balance. I admire the application. But more than anything, it leaves me curious as to why. Why you would try to put me to sleep when there's so much to be done.
I won't do what you want me to do. I'm nothing like you.
We're made from the same matter. The same filth. Otherwise, how would you know my story without me having to tell it to you?
Your story?
We were given the same gift, the same magic. Just as she was. With her little pink cap.
How do you know my
I know that's your favorite story, but you have been telling it wrong. It's true. She was a most beautiful child, and everyone could see that. But on the inside, she was rotten to her core, and as sweet as vinegar. Even I hated her, and I was her mother. Because from me, she took everything. And would have destroyed me, too, if I didn't get rid of her first. So I gave her back to the darkness that had made her, and thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. She stayed with me. In my thoughts, in my dreams, attached to me like my shadow, promising me a taste of the powers that she had. All that was required was for me to be brave and to trust the darkness. And I was.
This, she takes her kids in for the first time. She eats kids. This is the first instance of the witch eating her own children and the smoke turning like this. This is just Wizard of Oz. When I'm visualizing stuff like this, it's written about a lot that David Lynch is obsessed with the Wizard of Oz. I think a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, there's certain things that are indelible and permanent and perfect. And the Wizard of Oz is definitely one of those things. And colored smoke, or green smoke, I think there is in that movie. Blue smoke, maybe. It's a simple thing, but it looks great.
There was a Thomas and an Isabella, a darling William and a precious Elizabeth, a Harry and a Sarah.
So there's a thing coming up here that's quite wild. I was watching the monitor when we were doing this scene, and I sort of found this strange thing. She comes up here, and I encourage anybody watching this to pause it and go look at what I'm about to say. But she kind of raises her hand here in a minute and kind of, telepathically opens the curtain. Raises the witch. We see her from behind. She raises her hand and kind of moves her hand aside, and it makes the curtain open to reveal the here. So if you look at this here and you go to here, she raises her hand. If you stop it right here, it's the reverse of the mother in Psycho on the other side of the shower curtain. So if you look at Psycho, of course, you see Mother approach through the shower curtain. The angle is on Marion Crane. It's on Janet Leigh. She's in the shower, and you see the door. And through the shower curtain, you see the door open. You see the shape of Mother come in. And then, of course, in the famous shot, Mother swipes the shower curtain aside, and she's standing there with her hand held up, or his hand held up, with the butcher knife in the hand. And then the shower scene happens. And the shot that you just saw there is essentially that shot. It's the reverse of that. It's that moment, but you see it from over the shoulder of Mother, as it were. And the amazing thing about that is that no part of me meant to do that. And beyond that, I didn't build these sets. I didn't fix the witch's hair like that. I didn't it took the work of, truly 100 people to land on that image, the position of the camera behind her back, the set being built like this, the length of the curtain, all of the things that sort of came out, of me initially, right, from my unconscious, I suppose, but then executed by all these people with no conversation about it. There was never a moment where he said, well, let's do the reverse of the shower moment in Psycho. Let's do the reverse of the moment when Mother comes in. But it is that. And I saw it on the monitor, and I was, you can imagine when something slips in like that. It's pretty. I think the word is rewarding. It makes you feel like you're doing something. You're building something from a deep place. And of course, here the witch's last words are, she says, "What a world," before she gets.
What a world.
What a world, of course, is what the Wicked Witch of the West says after she says, "I'm melting." Everybody sort of thinks of the Wicked Witch as her famous last words being, "I'm melting," but her famous last words are, "What a world," which I don't know what about that is special or funny or true or weird or gorgeous. What about that is gorgeous to me? But when the witch says, "What a world," it's kind of, in The Wizard of Oz, it's kind of wonderful. It's kind of what a world that this kind of punk kid from Kansas just shows up and wreaks havoc and kills me. What a world that that's how it goes.
Quiet now. You're all right. And you will be. Just as long as I got a voice in it.
But what about her?
She doesn't live here anymore.
Gretel, you're scared. What of? Of the world?
No. Only of myself.
So it becomes an empowerment thing,
You'll always have a part of me, brother.
She's empowered in the end, but it's
Part of myself that you have not taken.
isn't it true
Given to you gladly.
that we're scared of our own power?
It will go with you when you leave.
When I leave?
And really so empowered that she's able to sort of say to him, "Oh, I can break off a piece of myself. You can take it with you. I can't go with you, but she can take me with you."
Now splits in two. And we take forking paths. Yours will lead you to what you need to find.
It's one of the very few actual close-ups in the movie. Is Hansel's reaction to his sister sort of going her own way.
I've told him to take good care of you. And see to it that you arrive safely.
Gretel, you'll see my face again. But anyway, where is he taking me?
Letting him go wasn't hard to do. If he's going to find his way, I can't very well be standing in it. Just as he shouldn't stand in mine. I could see she was right about that, at least.
In the script, I had him say he comes over here and he finds the axe where his mom left it when she threatened Gretel's life, and he kind of does the King Arthur thing where he just picks it up. And in my original version of it, he says, "Heavy metal." I don't know why we cut it. It's probably, again, it's one of those things where you show it to an audience and they say, "What?" And you say, "But it's funny, it's great, it's heavy metal, it's a big axe. He's heavy metal." It sort of sounds like Ozzy Osbourne, but they didn't get it. This was all reshoots. We shot all this in Vancouver later, after we'd shown the movie. The original ending was quite different. We meet these kind of scoundrel officers, these kind of young punk soldiers on their horses, and they kind of riding through the woods, and they cross Hansel's path, and they sort of make fun of him and throw something at him, and they say, "Is there anything in the forest that we should know about?" Kind of half joking. And he looks at them and he says, "Only my sister, sir." And he keeps riding off, and they kind of go around the corner and they stop, and they're shocked by what they see, and they find Gretel floating in the middle of the woods. And that was the ending that we showed. It was not finished. It was the kind of thing where you could still see the wires that were holding Sophia Lillis up off the ground, stuff like that. And when you show something like that to an audience, you're asking for it. So we reimagined the ending anyway. This is certainly better. It's more complete. And that's the movie. I hope you had a decent time listening to me talk about it. It's got a lot going for it. It sure looks great. And Sophia is a very special actor. The only movie Gallo and I have managed to do together. Schedules and stuff make things hard. But yeah, I suppose a unique vision, a unique look at something. Leonie Pendergrast. I feel like it was her first big movie. She really did a beautiful job with the costumes. These titles are done by these great guys, Filmograph, in Los Angeles. Such a cool bunch of dudes. Dr. Sammy Leakey. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a nice day or night, as the case may be.